Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Sarah Martin with The Contoured Chemist. In today's video, we're going to be talking about specific application for each skin type. So be sure to like and subscribe if this video helps you. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and get started and start with the first most important thing when it comes to putting on your mascara and makeup depending on your skin type, and that is prepping the skin. So if you're new here, you might not have heard, I am an avid believer that this makeup does not need a primer for longevity's sake. So that being said, that does not mean everyone's skin type is the same. So I'm gonna kind of show you guys, I don't have three sides of my face, but I'm gonna try to explain the difference between how I would prep, apply, and set for oily skin versus dry skin versus normal skin. So take a good hard look at your skin type and know that you can be more than one. So for me, for an example, I am pretty normal all the way around. But if I don't take care of my skin and I like skip a step or something and forget my milk or something, I will have dryness on my forehead. So treat each area of your face accordingly, there we go, accordingly to your skin type. So you might have to use some of these methods in just certain areas. So I do not mean if you have some oily skin to do this across your entire face. It's gonna be too drying on any areas of your face that might be completely normal. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, let's start with the easiest, the simplest, and that is if you have normal skin, if you are graced and you are lucky enough to be normal all over, I recommend trying to apply the makeup for the first time with no primer. So I can wear it all day, no primer. I just tend to use my Stay Spray because I'm already going to be setting with it. It's already right there. And I do like the extra moisture. This does contain hyaluronic acid. It's just great for the skin in general, and it doesn't hurt. So what I do is I just usually will spray it all over my entire face, or I'll spray it on my perfector and just kind of rub it anywhere. So I'm going to try to kind of, let's just do like this side normal. Okay, so I do have normal skin, so I'm going to go with the non-SPF Stay Spray. Now, I always add a SPF before I put on my makeup because I am just all about skin safety after my skin cancer. So I am going to SPF before, so I don't feel like I need the added SPF 30 when I've got over that already on my face. So I recommend the normal stay if you are normal skin. Okay. Now, I get this a lot that people are like, well, I have normal skin, but I have problems with pores or something like that, texture, that kind of thing. I totally get it. I do too. So the biggest thing with pores is making sure your highlight shade is not too light. So if you can just see your pores normally without makeup, and then you apply your highlight and your pores are exaggerated, that's a color issue and you need a slightly darker shade. That color is too light for you. Now, if you apply your highlight and you're just like, okay, it looks the same, but I would like to minimize it, blur it slightly, then I recommend trying something like a pore minimizing or pore blurring primer. So Benefit has a good one named Professional. It's just slightly blurring. So I like this one. It's an Amazon dupe. And I will literally just take it right where I have pores and I will only apply it where I need it. Okay, so a lot of people have them right here on the nose, and this one's really good because it does actually help block, it says sebum control, so it does help block some oil control as well. So if you tend to get a little shiny, even though you're normal and you want to kind of minimize pores a little bit, you can use something like that, or like one of the blur sticks, something like that. Just where you need it. So I would just apply it where I need it. And I don't feel like it gives me any longer wear time, longevity. I honestly feel like our makeup doesn't necessarily need it. So I don't use it very often. But if that is an extra concern for you, by all means, try it. I just want you to look at the label and make sure there is no silicone-based polymers in it. That is where our makeup will just slip and slide right off. If you're noticing as you're applying a primer, say just around your nose, and then that area is not sticking, it's your primer. Try it without it and see how it goes. Okay, so when it comes to, let's go the opposite. Let's go to dry skin. So with the normal skin, we always recommend to apply your moisturizer, your SPF, whatever that might be, and give it a good 20 to 30 minutes for it to soak in. So brush your teeth, go get your coffee, and then come back. And after that is no longer tacky on the face, you're good to go with your makeup. If you do put it on too early, you risk that slip and slide issue. Okay, so our milk cream especially is a super moisturizing. It's a thick cream. So the only time I recommend to apply this directly and then go straight in with your makeup is if you have severely dry skin. Okay, so if you're just pretty dry, you need to experiment with it. I would say trial and error. Like try just putting it where your dry patches are and giving it 5 minutes, going in with your makeup and seeing how that goes. Some people might need even less time for it to soak in. If you've got really dry flaking skin, then you're gonna need as much moisture as possible. So you wanna put that on there and go directly in with our creams and you'll notice a huge difference. So if you have just kind of oily or kind of dry skin all over, you can go ahead and moisturize in the morning, give it ample time to soak in, and then you could use like our SPF 30 Stay Spray. This is amazing for dry skin. So this one is much more moisturizing than this one. It's gonna give a dewier look. If you find that you're using this one and you're too dewy, you can switch to this one. I really like this one for under the makeup, and then you can even use this one over the makeup to set if you want a slightly less dewy look. Okay, I will go into setting. That's a whole nother ballgame. But when it comes to just using as a primer, this one will help give you that extra boost of moisture right from the get-go, and it's great. Okay, so my most asked question, and this is the one I get the most troubleshooting with, is my oily skin girls or girls with combo skin. They might be normal or dry somewhere else, but they really have issues with the makeup with oil, which I get. Like oily skin can be a problem with any makeup, but when you have extra moisture from our creams, it can make your skin a little bit harder to adjust. So if you aren't familiar, if you're brand new to our mascara creams and you have oily skin, so any skin type is gonna take at least 2, maybe 3 weeks to adjust. So creams are extremely moisturizing. If you've never heard me talk about them, they're what we call an occlusive agent, okay? So they actually will sit on top of the skin. They can't clog pores because they're too large to actually go into your pores, but they kind of create what we call a second skin, and they will sit on top of the skin and they actually will hold moisture to your skin. So all that moisture that your face will normally lose throughout the day, and especially if you're used to a traditional powder or liquid foundation, those are actually very drying. They suck the water out of your skin, and these are the opposite. They hold it in. So if you've been using traditional makeup for all these years, it's gonna take some time for your skin to get used to the fact you are giving it that much more water. All that water loss is gone. So it's gonna hold that moisture in. So it's gonna take longer for your skin to get used to it. You will notice the first few weeks, you will feel a little bit more hydrated, a little bit tackier. And then once your skin adjusts, you'll notice a huge difference to where you might no longer need to powder in order to not be quite so dewy through the day. And then your skin will just have that beautiful glow that we are all wanting, right? So my most asked question is oily girls. Oily girls, there's such a difference in everyone's skin type. You can't just necessarily say, oh, I'm oily, use this, okay? There's different degrees of oiliness, okay? So some people just are a little bit and they're shiny at the end of the day, and some people are oily all over. So dependent upon how oily you are, you know your skin, what you think, whatever you think, there are a couple of different primers you can try that will almost be oil blocking primers. We call them mattifying primers, that will kind of block that oil production on wherever you're oily. So I've got a few here. I am not an oily girl, so this is mainly from feedback from clients. A lot of oily girls have told me what's worked for them, and I recommend trying something affordable before you go to the more expensive versions, just because one of these might work for you even better. Okay, so there's a lot of good drugstore options nowadays. Wet n Wild and Milani both have mattifying primers, okay? So I can even use this. It's not so strong that it's like super glue on your face. If you are oily, you know what I'm talking about. But you just want to apply it only where you need it, okay? Now, one that is really good if you are super oily in areas is the Becca one. I will insert the name of it and I'll link it down below. And that one is amazing, but it's a little bit pricier. A bottle will go a long time, but I recommend not applying that one all over your face. That one is really strong. It's one of those, it's almost like super glue. So only try that one if you really have excess oil issues. So one of my favorites to recommend is this e.l.f. It's called HD Mattifying Balm. And I love this one because I can use it. And yet I've had oily girls say that this is perfect for giving themselves just enough oil blocking mattifying power. And I like it for longevity. So what I do is I just use it just like I would a pore filling primer. It feels very similar to me on the skin, and I get oily I don't get oily. I get a little bit shiny on my forehead and sometimes in this area. So I'm just gonna use a little bit of that there, just when I need it. So mostly T-zone is where people have issues, but this one's lightweight enough. I feel like you could use it over your entire face for a nice oil blocking canvas. Okay, so now that we are fully primed, our skin is ready to go, all we gotta do is start with our highlight. Now, if you haven't seen my videos before, you might not know how much I stress a light-handed application. So when I'm troubleshooting with my clients in the very beginning, one of the first things I ask is if they have oily skin and if they've tried a primer. And 9 times out of 10, if that isn't the case, it is because they're just using too much. So I get it, this makeup is extremely different than anything you've ever used, and you use so much less than traditional makeup. It's impossible not to use too much in the beginning. Do not feel bad. I did it. Everyone I've known has done it. So just think light-handed. I simply tap and then I buff. So I definitely recommend for beginners using this blush end of the B² blush bronzer brush. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and do a really thin layer of my color corrector by buffing it. Okay, so buffing is going to give you that first layer, and then if you want more coverage, you can easily press on a second layer. So I'm gonna color correct and highlight, and I'll be back. Okay, I completely forgot to mention something. So when a lot of people talk about skin, a lot of times we're talking about specific areas of our skin, okay? So don't forget the under eye. I feel like as we age, that is the first place that's gonna start drying. And with this makeup, dry skin plus heavy-handed creams plus any kind of powder to set it leads to cakiness, and nobody wants that. We don't want to look older. One of the greatest things about this makeup is that it will make your skin look younger. You just have to know exactly how to apply it. So one of my favorite ones for just a little bit of moisture and for brightening is this Banana Bright eye cream. So I recommend some kind of eye cream if you have oily under eyes, okay? I should have applied this at the beginning. Give it at least 5 minutes to soak in. And for dry skin babes, definitely make sure you are treating every area of your face, including the lips, okay? Put on that lip conditioner, put on the under eye cream, and then let that soak while you do your eyes, and then you'll be good to go. Okay, moving on. Okay, so highlighted, contoured. I'm almost done. All right. I am gonna go ahead and perfect. So no matter your skin type, you guys, this one is not optional. Trust me when I say I used to think it was until I really started utilizing it and realized that this baby makes all the difference. And all of my people who are having issues with feeling sticky or tacky, especially if they're oily and they're utilizing too much, this is what is going to get off that excess. And if you have dry skin and dry patches, this really is gonna help. Like, I tend to sometimes feel like my makeup looks dry right through here, but after I perfect it and press that in, then it suddenly disappears. And that is what we want to see. Okay, especially under the eyes. If you have dryness or just more mature eyes that tend to have lots of lines like I do, this is the key for making sure you don't have excess so that when you're, using your face through the day, it's gonna settle into those lines. Okay, so now that we are fully highlighted and contoured, let's go ahead and talk bronzer. So bronzer is one of those things that most people just are used to, a powdered bronzer. So if you've never tried a cream bronzer, first of all, if you are dry skinned, you are gonna be like, where has this been my whole life? Because it's gonna give your skin that luminosity, that glow that we wanna see, especially that dry skin can start looking dull. We add that glow back. So the great thing about cream bronzers is that it's not going to dull your skin after you apply them like a powder would. Okay, so I am just going to use a little bit of Bella. Which side's supposed to be dry? I don't even remember. We're just gonna apply it. So right over the cheeks and right where we didn't brighten. So we brightened the center of the face. We bronze everywhere else pretty much. And I'm gonna show you both. So if you don't know, Maskcara has two bronzers, but the cream one is what I would consider the universal bronzer. If you want to make your neck match your face, you want to add a little bit of glow, a little bit of life back to your skin, summer glow, any of that, use Bella. That is our cream. And if you do have oily skin, that does not mean you can't use a cream. Just like with anything else, our creams, you can still use them. Just don't be too heavy-handed. But with that one, it's so sheer and a little goes a long way. It's kind of hard to be heavy-handed with that bad boy. So when it comes to our other one, it's called Cayman. So if you ever seen this one, I mean, you can't even see it on my finger. It's extremely light. So compared to Bella, I don't really consider this a bronzer per se. So if you've been color matched me, you probably saw it in my color match that I recommend this for girls who want to be fully matte, or if you have oily skin where you have contour. So if you are oily here or here, and you want to help with that excess oil production, set those areas, I consider this a setting powder for your contour. Okay, so I love the finish it gives when I actually use it, because it just slightly blurs your contour. It sets it, and I don't know, it gives the most beautiful finish. It sets it in place. It will make it last longer as well. So if you have any issues with your contour fading through the day, try setting it with Cayman. This is perfect for oily skin girls, or if you want fully matte. So I went ahead and did that step, and it was kind of a little out of order, so I'll explain in a minute. But let's go ahead and finish with some lip and cheek, so that way we're actually done with our face. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab some Tropicana, one of our limited edition shades. I'm just gonna put on the apple of the cheek, on up that contour. Now, when it comes with skin type and lip and cheeks, you might want to note that there are 3 different formulations for our lip and cheek colors. So let's see if I can grab them here. I'm pretty sure mine are all out of order right now, but we do have 3 different formulas. So I just use Tropicana. Tropicana is what I would consider a satin. It's right in between our 2 other formulations. You'll notice it gives a slight sheen, okay? So it will not dry down fully matte. Hollywood. Okay, so this one's Hollywood. You can tell it is fully matte, okay? If you are an oily skin girl, I recommend starting with a matte and seeing it. For one, a matte will be fine for any skin type. So if I did have to make recommendations based on skin type, I would say if you have oily skin, start off with the matte formulation, okay? You will not have any issues with that. And then once you try that, you can go to satin and see how your skin likes it. I do have some oily girls that do not like the glossy shades, okay? So glosses are even more shiny. They are more moisturizing, okay? So I find the glossies are good for the dry skin girls. It gives them that more of that glow. I'm obsessed with it because these two are my go-to. And then when I do wear a matte, I put a glossy over it. But I like the glow. So you can tell this is a satin. It gives a slight sheen to the skin. If you don't like that, then you need to stick with the matte. I can't feel a satin on my face. The glossy ones, you will be able to feel it's slightly tackier, okay? It doesn't bother me, but some people it does. So know that there are different formulations. This one is a satin. This is Sunshine State. She's a glossy, and I'm gonna layer her right over the top. I feel like the glossy ones are best to layer last, if that makes sense. Okay, so we fully have done our face. Now it's time to set. So I get this question all the time, and there's a few questions you want to ask yourself. So yes, skin type does matter, but it also depends on the finish you want, and also not just your skin type, but your skin maturity. Is that a thing? Whether you have issues with creasing and stuff like that. Okay. So let's go through this step by step. You have normal skin and you have no issues with creasing. Here's what I would recommend. If you don't have to, you do not have to powder anything at all. Okay. You can end with a stay spray. Okay. And this is going to lock your makeup in place, and this is going to give a dewy finish. So both of these are dewy. This one is less dewy. The SPF 30 is going to be slightly glowier. Okay, so depending on your preference. Now, most people have at least some, well, I don't want to say most people. If you are like me and you have normal skin and you want that dewy look, but you have issues with creasing. So my issue is sometimes right through here and under my eyes. So first thing, make sure you have perfected it as good as you possibly can. Anywhere you have issues creasing, I even will go back through and pat it out, make sure it's not there. If it is an under eye issue, you need to think about what kind of powder you're using. So I always use our Vanilla Dust because it is finely milled. I touch it with our Power Powder brush, and then I will press that under the eye, and that's it. I'm done, and I know that that is locked in place. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and repeat the other side because if I look around too long, I will actually crease immediately. So then I can go ahead and go with this and go right through there, and you can press it anywhere you might be a little shiny as well, and I'm golden. Okay, now if I want a dewy look, I powder first and then I'm gonna spray. Okay, so this is gonna take away that powdery finish, but I've still already set my creams, okay? So don't forget that creams don't set. So if you're worried about movement through the day, it's settling, you've got one or two options. You can powder, or you can simply take your ring finger about midway through the day, pat out your creases, and there you go. So you don't have to powder. You don't even have to set. Our setting spray does help, but you don't have to use it. It is just going to give a slightly dewier finish and make it last longer. So if you're like me, you have normal skin, but you want a longer lasting application, I reverse those two. So I will stay spray generously, and then I'm going to powder anywhere I highlighted. So when I want extra longevity, I will use this under my eyes, and then I'm gonna use something like Laura Mercier Translucent, or Airspun is a great drugstore option, and I'm going to set it everywhere I applied highlight. This is also what I recommend for oily skin girls. So if you have oily skin, especially while your face is still, your skin is still adjusting, oh, that's way too much, adjusting to the creams, I recommend, and this is what I did when when I first started wearing mascara and my skin was adjusting, I used a powder so I wouldn't feel sticky and when I wouldn't be as shining, because you gotta realize your skin's adjusting, and if you're oily and your skin is, you know, secreting oil through the day, it's just gonna make you look that much shinier because you're already dewy. This is gonna leave a dewy glow. Now, if you powder, then depending on how oily you are, you might just have a slight glow by the end of the day, but you're not gonna look like what some people like to call an oil slick. Nobody wants to look like that, right? So we wanna find a happy medium, and sometimes that requires a little bit of loose powder. So I really like Laura Mercier, and what I like to just press it on just where I need it. So anywhere I highlighted, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do the whole face so I am not halfway done. Okay, so this is oily skin or normal skin longevity. For dry skin, I don't recommend powdering unless you absolutely have to. And if you do powder, I recommend something finer, like either our Vanilla Dust, or my other favorite is this Hourglass Veil. So this is about the only loose powder I've found that I can actually use under my eyes without looking 10 years older, because it is so finely milled, kind of like ours, that it's not gonna age you as much. Now, I can't use this Laura Mercier one even without looking older. But apply it to all of your highlighted areas. If you are oily, remember you can then also Cayman bronze your contours, or do that if you want longevity, okay? So I recommend doing that. Now, if you are doing that and your skin has adjusted, you don't feel like you look like an oil slick or anything like that anymore, but you have oily skin and you just can't use our Stay Spray because it is too dewy of a finish for you, I recommend trying Urban Decay. So this one's an old bottle because I don't use it anymore, but All Nighter and De-Slick are my two favorite for oily skin girls, or if you don't want that dewy finish. There are some drugstore options, again, Wet n Wild or Milani, that are matte finishes that you can also try, that won't exactly give you that fully matte look, but will kind of take away some of that powdery finish. So the one thing to note, when you want a fully matte look, you need to powder last. When you want a dewy finish, you want to spray last. And if you are like me and you kind of want a little bit of both, what you can do is you can go ahead and spray and then only powder where you need it. So under the eyes, anywhere you're gonna crease, and then you're good. You can always brush off excess powder and see what you think. So sometimes people powder and then they feel like their blush has gotten too subdued. You can go ahead and add a little bit more, okay? This cream is not gonna look cakey just because you added more over a little bit of powder, okay? Now, if you use a super heavy powder, you might have to look out for that. This one is a little bit heavier in my opinion and gives a much more full coverage finish. If you really like to bake, this one would probably be good. I just don't recommend it anywhere near your eyes if you have more mature eyes like I do. Okay, so the very last step is going to be Illuminator. So I always recommend doing your Illuminator last. All right, because if you've just powdered, or if you put your illuminator on and then you powder over it, it's gonna take away the glow, and we wanna be able to see that glow. So when it comes to illuminator and skin types, I would say, the only recommendation I would make is if you have dry skin, I would use a cream and not the powder. Our powders are extremely pigmented, and it can actually kind of enhance dryness if you are dry in the areas where you apply it. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of rose gold right there with my perfector to blend it. I feel like I've talked all my lip stuff off. Okay, you guys, I think we're done. I think I covered it all. Did I cover it all? All right, so I hope that helped you. I think it kind of started half the face and then turned into a big mishmash, but hopefully it wasn't confusing and you understood the difference between oily, dry, and normal skin application with mascara. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below and I'd love to help you. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. Bye.